The night before our wedding, my fiancé looked me straight in the eyes and said, "If you loved me, you wouldn't need a prenup." What she didn't know was that I had already seen the messages between her and the woman she told me was just a coworker. And by sunrise, the wedding was cancelled, my car was back in my driveway, and my fiancé had nowhere to go. Welcome back to Karma Stories Hub. Today's story is about family, betrayal, manipulation, and the moment karma finally catches up with people who thought they'd never face consequences. If you enjoy satisfying revenge and emotional justice stories, you're in the right place. Grab your favorite drink, settle in, and let's get into today's story. My name is Rachel Miller, and 6 months earlier, I honestly believed I was about to marry the love of my life. Her name was Lauren. We had been together for almost 3 years. We met at a friend's birthday party in Chicago, and within a year, we were talking about marriage. Lauren was charming, affectionate, and incredibly good at making me feel like we were a team. I had worked hard for everything I owned. My small marketing company was doing well, I had bought a condo before meeting Lauren, and the SUV I drove was also mine. I had paid for it myself. Lauren knew all of that. She also knew I had been burned financially in a previous relationship. So when I suggested a simple prenup, I thought she'd understand. I wasn't asking her for anything unreasonable. I told her, what I had before we got married stays mine. Anything we build together belongs to both of us. Lauren went completely silent. Then she laughed. Not a nervous laugh. A cold one. "So you already think we're going to fail?" "No," I said. "I think marriage and finances should be honest." She walked away without answering. The next morning, she barely spoke to me. For the next week, every conversation somehow became about money. She started asking questions I'd never heard before. "How much is your company worth? How much equity is in your condo? What happens if we divorce?" I started feeling uncomfortable. Then one afternoon, she said something that stuck with me. "If you really trusted me, you'd put everything in both our names." I told her that wasn't happening. After that, Lauren changed. She became distant. She stayed late at work. Her phone was suddenly always face down. And whenever I walked into the room, she'd lock the screen. I tried convincing myself I was being paranoid. Then one Thursday night, Lauren told me she was staying at her sister's house. Around midnight, I received a message from an unknown number. It was a screenshot. Lauren was sitting in a restaurant with another woman. The caption underneath said, "Soon we'll finally have the life we deserve." My stomach dropped. I stared at the picture for almost a minute. Then another screenshot arrived. This one was a text conversation. Lauren had written, "Rachel won't sign anything until I pressure her enough." The other woman replied, "Just keep acting like you're hurt. Once you're married, everything changes." I couldn't breathe. I didn't confront Lauren immediately. Instead, I checked our shared wedding plans. That's when I noticed something strange. Lauren had recently changed the payment account for several wedding vendors. The new account wasn't mine. It was hers. And nearly $8,000 of deposits had been transferred out of the account we'd created for wedding expenses. I confronted her the next morning. She didn't deny the affair. She didn't even apologize. Instead, she said, "You pushed me into this." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "You cheated because I asked for a prenup? You made me feel unwanted," she replied. Then she dropped the real bomb. She had already told several friends that I was controlling and obsessed with money. She had apparently planned to leave me after the wedding. The other woman wasn't just her coworker. Her name was Megan. And Lauren had been talking to her for almost a year. I asked, "Were you planning to marry me while seeing her?" Lauren looked at the floor. Then she whispered, "I wasn't sure." That answer hurt more than anything else. But the biggest surprise came that evening. I discovered Lauren had already packed several boxes and moved most of her things into my condo. She had apparently assumed that after marriage, she would have a permanent claim to the life I'd built. That was when everything became clear. The prenup hadn't created the problem. It had exposed it. I called off the wedding. Lauren exploded. She told me I was ruining her life. I calmly told her she had ruined the relationship long before I canceled the wedding. Then I asked her to leave my condo. She refused. "You can't just throw me out," she said. I reminded her that the condo was mine and she had no ownership interest in it. I also contacted the property manager and followed the proper legal process rather than trying to force her out myself. Lauren eventually left. But she had another problem. The SUV she'd been driving for months was also mine. I had originally let her use it because her old car had broken down. The title and loan were both in my name. Once we ended the relationship, I took the SUV back. I didn't threaten her. I didn't damage anything. I simply stopped allowing someone who had betrayed me to keep using property I owned. Lauren called me that night. "You're leaving me with nothing." I answered, "I'm leaving you with exactly what belongs to you." She cried. Then she blamed me again. But this time, I didn't argue. Megan eventually stopped seeing her. Apparently, Megan had expected Lauren to leave me and immediately move in with her. That never happened. Lauren ended up staying temporarily with a friend after leaving my condo. The wedding deposits were mostly lost, but I recovered what I legally could. I also learned something else. Lauren had told people I was cruel for making her homeless. But she never told them that she had been offered a place to stay with her sister and refused because she didn't want to admit the engagement was over. Her homelessness wasn't something I created. It was the consequence of building her future around a relationship she had already betrayed. Months later, I ran into Lauren at a coffee shop. She looked different. Tired. Smaller somehow. She said, "I really thought you'd forgive me." I looked at her and realized I didn't feel angry anymore. I simply said, "I almost married someone who thought my boundaries were an obstacle instead of part of a healthy relationship." Then I walked away. I used to think a prenup was about protecting money. Now I think it's about protecting honesty. The right person won't see reasonable boundaries as an insult. They'll see them as part of building something that can survive real life. And sometimes, the biggest act of revenge isn't destroying someone who hurt you. It's refusing to let them keep benefiting from the life they betrayed. What would you have done if your partner cheated after you asked for a prenup? Would you have confronted them immediately, or quietly gathered the evidence first? If you enjoyed today's story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss another karma story.